Alrighty, Hurricane Ian is no more. I have survived, but I've been away since Sunday. So that's a 3-day gap. That's pretty bad. But I'll do my best to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. I can't control the weather. I just got my power back a couple of hours ago, so I'm going to try and have this one up like before 8 a.m. I will admit I haven't had the time to follow the news as closely as I would have liked to over the last 3 days. I am disappointed that I had to miss not only talking about the Italian election, which turned out very well, but also the explosion of the Nordstream 1 pipeline, and I think the Nordstream 2 pipeline was even blown up. But I guess first I'll discuss the storm a little bit for those of you who are interested. I was fairly close to the center, although I didn't get any of the eye wall. And to be honest, the trees around here have been shaken of any loose leaves. Every loose leaf that there was is on the ground. And granted, I did board up where I live, so I didn't get any 4x4s, through the plate glass window. I haven't walked around outside yet. It's still dark, but as of last night when I went to bed, and I think it was pretty bad, it was about as bad as it was going to get last night. I don't think anything's really been, destroyed beyond repair where I live. Now I know other people who live further east towards where the eye was moving through the state, and they've got some really bad damage, like metal buildings collapsing and things like that. And certainly mobile homes have been shredded in a manner that is pretty common for big hurricanes. But there's a lot of ways of minimizing your risk when it comes to storms like this, which is why I'd rather live somewhere like Florida that has to deal with hurricanes instead of a place like, I don't know, Kansas that has to, or Alabama that has to deal with random tornadoes that can just spin up out of nowhere. And if you're not awake and you don't see the alert on your phone, you could just be killed in your sleep because some twister comes through and completely shreds you and your house. And even if you do get out in time and you have some kind of storm cellar, well, then everything you own is destroyed. That just doesn't really happen for the most part with hurricanes unless you live in an area that is near tidal waters, that is susceptible to storm surge. Your whole house can be washed away. We've seen a lot of that. The other way that could happen is if you live in a mobile home. And then thirdly, if you are if you kind of go through the eye wall, which is where the winds are the worst, and you didn't board up your house, then things can get bad for you, because if you get something that blows through blows out one of your windows, then the wind will get pushed in your house, and that could blow out other windows or, lift your roof off. But for the most part, if you don't live on near tidal water, something that is connected to the Gulf, and you board up your house, you're pretty much going to be okay. Most people don't board up their houses at all, and the vast majority of them are okay. I mean, the people I know who had it worse than I did here didn't board up at all, and they didn't lose any windows or anything. Now, they do have a lot of damage from other stuff that was blowing around, but their house seems to be intact last I talked to them. So all in all, if you are conscious of where you are either building or buying your home, you're conscious not to live in a mobile home, which, by the way, mobile homes don't all get destroyed in every hurricane. There are mobile homes here in Florida, locally, that have been in place since the 1950s when mobile homes first, were propagated, and they're still there, they're still intact, and they have all their original 1950s windows. But that's because, your odds of taking a direct hit from a hurricane in any given one spot are kind of low. If any of these people, if they did get a really bad storm and they were right in the middle of it, it would shred their 1950s mobile home and blow out all the windows and throw them, a few hundred yards away. And a lot of people will tell you, oh, you need a block house. People feel safer in block houses, but you really don't. There are wood frame houses that are, well over 100 years old. Oftentimes, closer to the coast because, that's where people started building. So you have these very old homes in Florida that are small, made out of wood, and they've survived all these hurricanes all these years. And furthermore, you have much more warning with a hurricane than you do with a tornado. Sure, you don't know exactly where the hurricane's going to hit, but you know one's out there, and you know it could come to you. And so if you have, taken the proper precautions, you have either shutters or, wood that you've got cut to fit your windows already that you have in reserve, like in your garage or in storage somewhere. You have enough time to get those shutters out to cover up your house, and once you do that, you're pretty well set. Again, assuming that you are not in an area where storm surge is going to be an issue. And so you can't really take these kinds of precautions to minimize your risk, at least as far as I know, if you live in an area that's just prone to these random tornadoes. So with that said, I do want to address the Nordstream issue. I guess I'll come right out and say I don't think the Russians did it. I never really doubted that because the way that I found out about the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up was I saw Radek Sikorski's tweet. Radek Sikorski, the former foreign minister of Poland, Poland being perhaps the most anti-Russia country on the planet, and the caption, he tweeted out a picture of where the pipeline was blown up and the gas was bubbling up out of the ocean. Very good for the environment, by the way. He said, "Thank you, USA." So Radek Sikorski thanked us Americans for blowing up that pipeline. He's in a position to know. He's the former foreign minister of Poland, and he's Anne Applebaum's husband. Anne Applebaum is a powerful, New York Times adjunct. Actually, she's not even really an adjunct. She is, maybe a member of the editorial board. I can't remember exactly what her title is there. But all you need to know is that they are regulars amongst the establishment. They're very much a part of the in crowd. Radek Sikorski is not some conspiracy theorist. Rather, he is the conspirator. He is one of the people of which conspiracy theories are built around. But when he comes right out in the open and just says it, it's not really a conspiracy theory. It's a member of the establishment confirming their kill. It's like ISIS taking responsibility for a truck bomb, or the Obama administration taking responsibility for a drone strike. The Western neoliberal establishment has taken responsibility for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline. And if they hadn't, you would have expected there have been some kind of, alarm or retaliation against it, because as I saw someone point out on Twitter, this was pretty close to NATO territory. Might have even been officially NATO waters, because it's between, I believe it was between Germany and, I guess Sweden and Finland are not in NATO yet, officially. So the water between them and Germany, it's not entirely clear. I don't know if it was in German territorial waters, but it was in the North Sea. And certainly that's somewhere that if NATO considers eastern Ukraine to be a part of NATO's sphere of influence, well, then certainly they would consider the North Sea part of NATO's sphere of influence. And so if the Ruskies are going around blowing up pipelines in the North Sea, I would think that NATO would have a problem with that, and that we would have heard something by now. They should, they should be condemning Putin for, energy terrorism, just like they said, oh, well, you energy blackmailer. Why aren't they calling him that for blowing up the pipeline entirely, making sure that Europe will never have enough gas to get through the winter? That seems like a pretty easy thing to attack Putin for if he was behind it. And so the fact that they haven't, well, I mean, they have, because they are blaming Russia. So I'll say that. It's not like they're saying nothing. But there's nothing convincing. They're not really acting like Russia did it. They're saying Russia did it, but they're not responding. At least not that I've seen. And again, I haven't had very good access to news or information. I didn't have any connection to the outside world for about 12 hours. There was, no cell service, no electricity, so no internet. And before, I lost all communications. I was focusing on trying to track the storm, which was, right over us. So all I've seen is, the West accusing Russia of doing this, but nothing really in response. I don't feel like NATO is acting as if Russia committed an act of war against Western Europe, because that's how you would have to view this if the Ruskies did it. Because, and the other thing is, I don't think that the Russians have a reason to blow up the pipeline. They could just turn it off at their end. There's no reason to blow it up and waste all the gas, because whatever gas doesn't get delivered, I believe the Ruskies aren't going to get paid for. So the Ruskies are incentivized to turn the gas off on their end, let the Europeans, buy the rest of the gas, as it flows through the pipeline, and then not waste any. So what I think is probably the most likely thing here is that this was done to take away the temptation from the people of Europe to reconcile with Russia. Because a lot of the pain that is going to be experienced in Europe and that they're experiencing right now could be avoided if the West reconciled with Russia and resumed, normal relations, so that they could continue to fulfill gas contracts and sign new ones, and maybe even open up Nordstream 2. But if the pipelines are destroyed, sure, could they be repaired at some point? Yes, but that would take a lot more work and a lot more time. It's not as, and then it takes more of a commitment to try and bring that relationship with Russia back online. Because not only would they have to reconcile, but then there would have to be a period of waiting in which the pipelines are being repaired before they can even get any benefit from reconciling with Russia. So this makes the West conceding anything to Russia in terms of, recognizing their, or tolerating Russia's war and the annexations of the 4 oblasts in eastern Ukraine. It makes that less desirable for the West. And so, considering, that a Polish guy sent this out thanks USA, it does kind of make me want to suspect that Poland did it. This is kind of close to Poland. And if Poland did it, I think they would much rather blame the U.S. than themselves, although, I'm torn. Does it even matter if it was Poland or the USA? I guess kind of, because if Poland did it, they would have to be going rogue in order. Well, who knows? Maybe they could have gotten permission behind closed doors from the U.S. establishment. So I'm going to wait for more information. Not that I think that we'll get facts, but we should get hints from both sides. And I think in the long run, it will be obvious to everyone what happened here. So with that said, I will try my best to see you folks back here tomorrow.